Hello and welcome to Literary Notes, a podcast by the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. I'm your producer, Nathan Ureta. Valentine's Day is just around the corner, so I thought I'd bring you all this interview with Eden Dawn. She's one half of the writing duo of The Seattle Book of Dates, a cheekily written, beautifully illustrated guide to outings for two in Seattle and the Puget Sound area. Eden researched and wrote this book with her husband, Ashod Simonian. It consists of over 125 date ideas, from hot toddies at Hazelwood, one of my favorite cocktail bars in Seattle, to watching marine life aboard the Odyssey, an old Navy vessel in the San Juans. Eden was interviewed by WTBBL volunteer Holly Chaffin on a video call. Holly also narrated the book for our collection. Stay tuned after their conversation for more info about one of the books we discussed last episode with Amy Hevron. Without further ado, Eden Dawn and Holly Chaffin.
Good morning. My name is Holly Chaffin. I'm a volunteer with the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. This morning on our podcast, Literary Notes, it is our very great pleasure to welcome Eden Dawn, author of The Seattle Book of Dates. Eden is a Guinness World Record holder, award-winning writer, host, and entrepreneur from Portland, Oregon. She's hosted a fashion and film series, a podcast, and live talk shows. Welcome, Eden.
Thanks, Holly.
So when I looked at info about you, so many different things you've done. Oh my goodness sakes. And I almost felt like all I wanted to do during this time was just hear stories about all of your different experiences.
My mom told me when I was little that only boring people are bored, and I feel like I took that to heart. So I like to say I'm never bored and I'm never boring.
I will bet. But we are here today to talk about the Seattle Book of Dates. Before we do, though, I wanted to kind of go back to your beginning, which is the Portland Book of Dates. And I'm just wondering, how did that book get started? Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Sure. So I, have built my career primarily as being a regional reporter. I was the fashion editor for Portland Monthly magazine, which is the sister magazine to Seattle Met magazine for many, many years, for 11 years. And I just loved it. I love being a regional reporter. I love getting to know cities and really, standing up for small businesses and seeing people always trying to do interesting things. And in doing that job for so long, I just realized people are always looking for stuff to do, always looking for, where do I eat? What's fun? What do I do this weekend? And my husband, Ashod, who does all of our illustrations, and we go on all the dates and plan everything together, and then I write them. He and I, when we started dating 12, 13 years ago now, we were really trying to impress each other. And we decided to do this thing called 23 picnics, where we wanted to go on 23 different picnics. And we took turns, and we're really trying to impress each other with these extravagant little adventures and, going to the river and, just running all over. And as we were doing it, people started to notice and were like, can you send me where this spot is? Can you send me the itinerary for this? And we just slowly started adding this list of people who were like, yes, this is where you go here. And, oh, we went on a weekend away and we were sending off those itineraries. And we just kind of realized there is a need for this, and it combines this. He's a creative director and knows how to make things look beautiful. Obviously, I am a writer. And so it put all of our skill sets together into the giant culmination, as we call ourselves, of being fun experts.
Oh my, the 23 picnics, that is a fabulous idea. But it's not an even number, Eden. So who did the most picnics?
That is a great question. And I think maybe a testament to our relationship that I have no idea.
All right. So you put that book together based on all of your personal experiences. And when you did you know right away, wow, we could have a whole series with other cities?
That's interesting. These books are so bonkers to write because we go on hundreds of dates. we're including the ones that we have declared to be fun, that we believe are equitable for all. We think about couples outside of us, that we want to make sure any place we put in that a queer couple would feel comfortable in, or an interracial couple. Like, we really want to be thoughtful of everything we're doing. And there are places that don't make the cut for a variety of reasons. So they also are exhausting, because we had like people think, oh, you go on dates for fun, but it's like we're doing so many other projects. We might go on 10 dates in a day when we're really in book writing mode, which sounds fun, but it is so silly. It's like showing up at a park, being like, this place is beautiful, keep going, run to the next one, run to the next one, have a drink here, then run to the next place.
Right.
So it's also exhausting. And when we got done with it, we declared we're never doing that again. That was so tiring. We want to just go on dates for fun. We're never doing that again. And then the Portland Book of Dates just sold so well. It hit the bestseller list for regional over and over. And people would come to us and say, we went on our first date and now we're getting married. Or people would tell us, we've been together forever and we never know what to do. And now this makes we're having fun together again. We meet people who are just best friends who use the book to go on friend dates. And when you hear that this silly thing that you did is bringing joy to people in a time when we all need more joy. And then, of course, we hear from the small businesses, too, that are like, oh, yes, people came in holding the book and saying, I need to order this cocktail or this thing that we've mentioned. So it just felt too good. And when our publisher said, I think we need to do another book, we don't have kids. We have two very demanding little kitty cats. But I from what I hear from my friends who have kids, is it sounds like there's a specific kind of amnesia that happens after birth, where everyone says, I'm never doing it again. And then their kid gets to be about 2 and they're like, maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I should do it one more time.
Yeah. 10 dates in one day. That's cramming in a lot of stuff. Wow.
It's so much. And some of these were so silly. Like, I feel really good about the things we put in, and we like silly and we like kitsch and we like to have fun. These are not all. The thing also we find is sometimes people, when they recommend dates, it's like just kind of the classic, like, here's a place to go to dinner. And we love going out to dinner. There's tons of stuff like that in the book. But we wanted there to be more, so there's going to an escape room and then, going out after, or there is a hot tub boat down on the river and taking a group of people. And so we love all of these silly things, but it is, it's a lot. And we love to be extra, as we say. So it works out.
Wow. So you started your book then in Seattle, your second book in Seattle, and you've talked a little bit about having to go to a lot of places, and it sounds like you really do go to all the places that you put into your book.
Yeah, we go to most of them. We don't, as all things with journalism, there's a limited budget. And so there are occasionally things where we rely on people we know that live there and interview people extensively. I also spend way too much time on TikTok and Instagram being like, okay, I liked this place, but what appears to be everyone's, the appetizer that people here love the most. And so there's a lot of different, again, I've been a reporter a long time. We have a lot of tools in our tool belt for doing our research, but we go to most things. And Seattle was pretty easy for us. My childhood best friend went to UW, so I was up there all of the time when we were in college to come. I have slept on the floor of nearly every dorm room at the school. So I had like a lot of experience of running around there in my youth. Ashod was a professional musician and in bands, and one of his bands was located there. So he spent tons of time there. So Seattle was like our closest thing after Portland as far as cities we've spent tons and tons of time in. So we had a lot of current research, and then we had just old favorites that are places that, we've loved to go for forever. And we wanted to share those with people too.
Yeah. Very fun. So you've got a lot of resources. Any other things that you use to pick your locations? maybe not. Or maybe there
Yeah,
is.
no, we start talking to people, what's the best date you've ever been on? What's the worst date you
Oh.
ever been on? What did you hate? Oh, you went to a restaurant that was so loud you literally couldn't hear someone on a first date. And so it might not be that the restaurant was bad, but we're like, oh, that's just not a good inclusion if the point is to have conversation. Or, people are like, we went to a movie marathon, but then we didn't speak the whole time. So that's hard. Or it might be things that you don't expect. I know that like a lovely date that I went on that included it in the book is to the Volunteer Park Conservatory. I think that place is so special. And I had been with friends when I was a little bit younger, and Ashod and I went on a date there. And I just remember we call the date in the book Tropical Punch because it's really, I think it's nice, being a Northwesterner my whole life. There is this point in bleak winter where you just hit a level of sadness from the gray. And so I love when there are things that wake you up out of that. And when you walk into the conservatory, the smell, the just beautiful, humid, floral smell whacks you in the face. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And then we pair it with going for tropical drinks around the corner at Inside Passage, which is a lovely, tiki bar. But so it's even mining our own past. It's asking everyone. It's thinking about things that we've enjoyed. There also is some continuity between books of just knowing like we've realized a really nice, simple date for a lot of people to do when they don't want to spend money is just going out to coffee and then finding a nice walk. And that applies to every single city. It's low cost, it's easy, there's less pressure than sitting in a bar and saying to each other for the 900th time, like, how many siblings do you have? And so then sometimes it's reverse where we're like, we know this is a good date. We know people like to do this, to like have a really like fancy little afternoon, coffee, tea, etc., kombucha, and then find a really pretty walk. So sometimes then we're researching that way instead of
Yeah.
just blindly going, what's nice in this city of going, well, we know people like to go, like a good group date is to go out to dinner and then to go do karaoke together. That's always fun. But now we have to find a place that's good for groups that will like allow a bunch of people because some restaurants, it's not a good place to try to go with 8 people and to find a karaoke and then ones that are within close to each other. So the research kind of comes in different ways of like what fits an idea we know that's fun or what's a place we know is special. And then also again, in talking to all of the people and saying, this place, I had the best date of my life here. And we're like, okay, let's go check it out.
Ooh, fun. And Eden, you do more than just find sites. You do a lot of research on the side. There is so much fun historical info in your book, interesting trivia about places. Tell us about how you find all of that.
I I have never met a historical placard that I did not want to stop and read. I love knowing the ins and outs of a place. I love knowing, again, I just think it's years of being a journalist, but also I'm just a curious person, so I want to know what makes people say, why this place over that place? And usually I'm like, because it's whatever drew me to it, whatever is interesting about it. And I think history is fun if presented well. I always say I'm trying to cram, education secretly into these books. But it's so cool to be like, oh, this bar that we're in right now was in Prohibition, and there was some dirty cop here who was doing scandalous things, and now his ghost supposedly roams around. That's way more fun than just saying, like, they have a happy hour from 3 to 5 p.m.
Right?
Like, people want to know all of those things. So I dig around everywhere. I love to ask people, what's interesting about the place. I read lots of old local journalism as well. It's one more reason I believe how that local journalism is so important because,
Yes.
that's when you can dig in and find an old story someplace from 25 years ago or, 50 years ago if you go into archives for a paper. And this is my one time that I will make a plea to businesses that I still believe it's so important to have websites that have your history, your about us, things like that, rather than just your Instagram, because an Instagram has beautiful photos, yes, but we want to know about your place. I want to know that, if you're a pizza place, but your sourdough starter you got from your great grandmother and you've been using it consistent, that makes me want to go to your place more than other people. So I just hope, I notice less and less people have websites and they rely only on their Instagram or TikTok, which I understand there's a cost saving measure to that. But I pray that people continue to tell their stories and make them fun, because we need that information. It just makes you want to go to a place more.
That's right. The stories matter.
Stories matter, and trivia is always fun. Everyone likes to pop out a little trivia nugget about something.
That's for sure. Yes. Now, I want to just mention online, your books are described as creative, cheeky, curated, aiming to inspire romance and adventure for all types of couples. Well, creative and cheeky, I'll say, so I am the recorder of your book. I did record your book.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yes.
That's so fun.
And I want to share with you your exciting, vibrant, fun descriptions. Wow, Eden, they just bounce off the page. And I think that it was so much fun to record your book. And also, I think it really lends a spark to readers. Just reading the book, they could enjoy it that way. But then also it makes people feel like, ooh, I really want to go there. Listen to these great things about this. So I'm wondering, what does it take to have that kind of a mindset, to write that way? With all that description and enthusiasm, do you have to rewrite several times before you get the tone right? And how did you get this writing style?
Well, there's a little bit of it that is just, I think all writers are stealing from our own voice. And as any listener right now can probably tell, I am by nature a pretty enthusiastic person. So I just like to have fun, Ashod and I have this in common. We know the world is hard and there are so many things that all of us are dealing with all of the time, that when there is the opportunity to choose joy, to choose to be silly, to choose to get together with your loved ones and have a nice time, that we want it to be fun. We can't just sit around and be stressed out all of the time. What is the point, And so I think in setting it up and using my silly voice and making all of my bad puns, which I blame my father for, he is overloaded with bad puns, I just think it kind of sets people in the tone. It also is a little bit of a flag for, if you don't like my voice, you might not like our dates, because they match. You know what I mean? Like I'm a fun, sassy person, and the dates we recommend follow suit. So if you're like, this girl seems too much, too colorful, too all over the place, I totally get it. All those things are true. And maybe some of the things we put in might not be your cup of tea.
Yeah. And that brings me to the next point. So you go to places, you do research, you talk to people, but in the end, do you have more material than you can really use in the book? And how do you decide what to keep, what to take out?
Yes, totally. And this part is always hard, because there are places I love that haven't made it in books for a variety of reasons. Some of them is like, oh, this one's a little far. It just doesn't make sense to do a chapter that's this far away. One of my favorite gardens in Oregon is called Short Acres, and it's in Southern Oregon, and it's just too far from Portland, and it just doesn't quite make sense. It just didn't make sense. But it's a beautiful place that if we ever rework the book in a different way, we might do. And there's no Ashland chapter, which is like a stunning place and has the Shakespeare Festival and all this stuff. So there are things that didn't make it in because of that. There's also I believe a good date typically is not just one thing. It's often go to this amazing bakery and get the best like apple fritter you've ever had, and then go rent kayaks and paddle out and then eat your apple fritters while you're bobbing around in the water. It's more than one thing. It's usually a combination of things that make an outing. And so sometimes we'll have a place that we really like, but logistically it's like there's just not a good thing around it that kind of goes with it. So those things can be hard. There's also just some things that we try to be really mindful of socioeconomic things of like we have some really big splurgy dates in there because there are times that we all want to splurge and spend have a fancy experience with a fancy budget. But that is not all the time. We want people to be going on dates every week of their life, to be go out and having fun every single week. And we can't all go spend $600 every Saturday on an outing. So there are sometimes we have to be really careful and like, okay, what's the big splurgy dates? And be mindful of that. So yeah, there's different reasons.
Yeah. Ooh, every week. That's quite a goal.
I mean, why shouldn't you be having fun every week of our life? Every week of our life, we're doing the laundry and going to work and paying our bills. So to me, it just makes sense that there should be at least one day every week that you are doing something that brings you joy. And again, it doesn't have to be a big fancy thing, but it can be going to the conservatory and smelling everything and then having brunch after. Like that's not going to take over your whole life. It's really a couple of hours of time, but it will change your mental state, your health, your everything. You will feel better when you do it.
Yeah. Good tip. That's a good tip. The illustrations, the graphics, they're lovely and vibrant and colorful. And how did you and Ashod decide to choose that illustration style for the book?
Yeah, Ashod is so creative. Sometimes I almost get mad at him because he's just good at everything when it comes to creativity. And in the rest of my life and the other parts of my career, I'm often the more creative one. But then when it comes to us, just hands down, he's just so good at everything, so talented. It's just really wonderful. We knew that we wanted this to not be a traditional guidebook, right? Those exist. The Lonely Planets, we have an internal crush on Rick Steves. We love him so much. We watch Rick Steves TV at nighttime all of the time. We so admire him, but like Rick Steves exists and he is so good at what he does. So we were like, we don't need to come in and be like those people who exist, right? Because they're already killing it. So we wanted to do things differently, hence the incredibly sassy tone. We didn't want to just do like photographs of these places. And so Ashod, who really loves risograph art style, which is this different colors printed upon colors in an old school printing method. So he wanted to do these illustrations to mimic that style and put some together when we did our book proposal to Sasquatch Books out of Seattle. And it was just so beautiful. It was just the right thing, and they're based off of reality. When we are going on our research dates, he takes lots of photos and then he illustrates more whimsical ideas of them. And I think it just does all of that, hits that goal of not being a traditional guidebook, not feeling stuffy. We don't have websites or hours for things in the books. We're like, people can Google that. You have a smartphone. You don't need us to tell you the address of this place. We want you to just feel inspired by the photos and the fun tone to, turn around and say to your partner, like, what are we doing Saturday? Should we make reservations at this place? Should we get some friends together and try an escape room? Should we do this fun thing? Go see comedy that night? Whatever it is. So I think that style and the look of it feeling so kind of mirthful all is part of the little world we're trying to put you in.
Right, I think so. The graphics, I didn't know it was called risograph. That's fun. that style really matches that upbeat tone of your book. I thought that the illustrations were a lot of fun also.
Well, I'll tell him. He'll love
Hey,
that.
at the back of the book, there's what you call a handy guide for finding the best date for you. And you've got a lot of curated lists for people like best first date, best cheap date, best foodies, best rainy days, which here in Seattle could be just about any day. But
No, summer. There's beautiful summer up there.
don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. But how did you get this idea to have at the back of your book? And then how did you categorize the dates to put them into these different lists?
Well, we knew this is not the type of book that you sit down and read in one setting. It's not a novel. There's not a storyline that's carrying you throughout. People use it much more like a guidebook. They pick it up when they're like, I want to look what's in this neighborhood. I want to look what's here. So we're always thinking about user experience and what makes sense. And, you mentioned I have a Guinness World Record for producing. I co-produced the longest drag show in history with a couple of friends of mine. But I think part of being a good producer is thinking about how are people going to use this thing and how are people going to experience it. We're trying to make a good, thoughtful experience for people throughout. And so the cheat sheets, as we call them, just make sense. If you're like, we have a thing in there when it's like when your parents come to town, because it's like, parents come to visit or an aunt and uncle or whoever, and you're like, what am I going to do with them? I don't want to take them to the neighborhood dive bar or whatever. And we just know that. We just know that those are life experiences of you have someone coming to visit, or it's a beautiful summer weekend, the first one, and you're like, what are the things I really want to do now that it's summer? And so it's really easy to just look back there. And for each one, we have 5 or 6 dates in that category and the pages, so you can just flip. And then it also comes back to, I think, and this is me being biased because I have it, but I think everyone in the world has some decision fatigue. The problem with the internet and smartphones is we have unlimited knowledge at our fingertips at all time, which just becomes very overwhelming. And so if we give you just 5 ideas, if we're like, okay, mom and dad are coming downtown to visit, here are just 5 ideas, it's much easier to choose instead of Googling good things to do when parents come into town, and then you get 10,000 answers. That makes me want to just click X and close my computer and cry.
Okay. Oh, that's really insightful about the lists. Thank you. So I want to ask you, you've probably received lots of reviews and comments from folks and likes for different things about your books. Out of all of the feedback that you get, what have you really appreciated the most? What have people said to you that really stands out for you?
The things that make me excited are really when people look happy about it, when they say, we went on this date and it made us so happy. Another thing that was absolutely wild to me is we were at a cashier at Powell's Books said that she and her partner turned our book into a spreadsheet with every single date and gave each date a number. And when it is time to go on a date, they just choose a number and then they have to do that date.
Oh my gosh.
So they just like pick a number out of a hat and they're like number 7, and whatever date that corresponds to, they have to do that. And so that someone would take the time, also I love games, so I love that they gamified it, but that anyone would take the time with the thing you create to add upon it and to make it part of their little family's ritual just brings us so much joy. It really does. Yeah, all of those things are so nice.
Right.
And we've been very, very lucky. Our negative reviews are pretty few and far between. It's been so positively received. And I I'm just so happy that people want to have a nice time. Again, I think people, I always feel like everyone has different legacies in different ways. This book is not curing cancer or anything that is that monumental. But for me and Ashod to have our legacy be that we brought some people joy, that we supported some small businesses, that we hopefully helped cement people's relationship, friendship, whatever it is, to feel a little bit better is just like the highest compliment we could possibly have.
I hadn't even thought about how your book supports small businesses. That's very cool.
Yeah, you'll see there's very, very few times that we have a chain in there. I think, we have like iFly in there for indoor skydiving, in part because it's just such a wild idea. And they are a chain, but they're not an everywhere. Like, Oregon doesn't have one, so that's an example of like every once in a while we will put one in if it's pretty notable in some way. But we don't put in chain restaurants. We really try to support mom and pop businesses, women-owned businesses, like as much as we can, because, that's what we are. We're small business owners. And again, what I've built my entire career upon is writing about and being friends with those folks. So I know that every little bit helps. And also because I feel like those places have the most personalities. Sometimes you get to those big chains and they have to wash away any of the fun to make things cookie cutter place to place.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's really a fun insight that I hadn't considered when I was recording your book. I'm glad to know about that. Okay, you've talked a little bit about your work as a reporter and the reason for your Guinness World Book of Records. So you've done a lot of things. Eden, out of all those things, what do you feel has been the most important one to launch you into becoming an author? Is there one that really unexpectedly maybe launched you into now your role as an author of this book series?
I think the thing that probably launched me the most is an unexpected thing. And I'm going to say my obsession with reading Nancy Drew as a child.
Oh my gosh, I read Nancy Drew.
I love Nancy Drew and the Babysitters Club. And I grew up in the countryside out south of Salem. And I would just sit out with I had a horse named Cher and a goat named Lipstick, which is very on brand for me. And I would read Nancy Drew for hours. And I just thought everything was exciting, Reading books was exciting. She is so determined and brave. She's this young woman, but she was always like kicking the boys' butts and figuring out everything and just up for adventure. And all of it excited me. I wanted to be around books. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be cool like Nancy Drew. Further exacerbated by reading the Babysitters Club and probably watching too much Miss Piggy, who is still my idol. I love Miss Piggy. And all of it together, I think, really was like, okay, well, that's it. I'm going to go into this kind of world. I'm going to be able to make decisions and write things and be intrepid. So I feel like as far as career points, all of them were a stepping stone to where I got. But the thing that gave me the audacity to get there was for sure reading, and why, again, I love that this program exists and that people are getting more access and easier access to books of all kinds, because I just truly believe that reading changes the world.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Oh, that is so fun about Nancy Drew. I read Nancy Drew's. I loved them.
She's the best.
Yeah.
I see them all the time when I'm out in the world, and I have a pretty big collection of vintage Nancy Drew, but I can see them. It's like I see Secret of the Old Clock, and I'm like, I know what happens. Secret of the Whispering Statue, I know that one too.
Oh my gosh, that's really fun. So your most recent book that just came out last year, Nashville Book of Dates. How did you pick Nashville?
We picked Nashville because we look at cities that have a little bit of the same spirit as the others. And Nashville's population is pretty comparable to Portland's. Seattle's a little bit bigger, but all of those cities have this attitude that feels right to me. They're places that love music, that love food, that nature is just outside and is important as all of the other culture. And so it just felt kind of right, talking about again how I love kind of kitschy and silly, like Nashville has all of those things. And so it just felt like the right next step when we were looking at fun cities that sort of had, a unique spirit. And it was fun. It was definitely, I will say, it was more of a challenge to be in a city that I don't know as well, compared to the thousands of hours I have spent in Portland and Seattle. But I also think we did a really good job. We just rely more heavily on people there to help us figure out things, and then time on the ground.
Right. 10 dates in a day, right?
10 dates in a day.
Oh my gosh. But I'm wondering, was there anything that you learned from doing Portland and Seattle books that really helped you in Nashville? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, like I touched on earlier, we know more now what kind of dates people like. So then it's about reverse engineering it in like we know that somebody wants to go on a kayaking or canoeing adventure. There are people where that is just a really fun thing, where they want to go be able to be in the water, but have it be peaceful, not being zoomed around by, jet boats or whatever. And so then we start looking around Nashville, okay, and talking to people, what's the place there that they have a canoeing adventure that's really special? And they have one up to Burgess Falls where you can canoe up to the waterfalls to get out and get in. And it's like the only way you can get to them. You're like, okay, well, there we go. We know that that's a date people like. And I think that when I started Portland, it was much more, we just gathered anything that seemed cool and had thousands of dates, which, is very comprehensive, but just also, for the, you have to do some of your time versus output. And we all know that publishing is famously not a super lucrative business. So you have to be mindful of how much money are we spending at these places? How much time can we afford to do this? We have a deadline to hit. So I think we're just a little bit more surgical in our precision now, because we do always say these books are not comprehensive. There's so much more to Seattle and the area around than I can ever be able to put into one 200-page book. And we include chapters in there for like a nice weekend in Victoria and going up to Whistler, which has my favorite spa I've ever been to, Scandinave. If anyone's looking for a nice thing to do, go up to Scandinave. But they're not comprehensive. They are a curated list of experiences we think are fun. And that also was a realization, because I would feel so guilty in the early days of like, oh my gosh, I love this one pizza place that's out in Eastern Oregon that doesn't make sense. And it's like, oh yeah, we can't put in everything. We need to think of it as, when someone says, list me your favorite 2 meals, you can't say 50 things. You have to be like, okay, well, here are my favorite 2 things right now, and stand behind it. And then later, you'll go, oh, I wish I could say something else. But
So do you have 2 favorite things from Nashville?
I will say Nashville has amazing waterfalls. And I think of the Northwest as being waterfall queens, but because of all of the limestone there, and they are so cavernous, they have all of these amazing caves, which is the other thing. I was really impressed with how cool the caves are and all of the waterfalls. So that was an unexpected thing. And then the Nashville also has the African American Music Museum, which is the coolest museum I've ever been to in my life. You can wear wristbands and actually make playlists as you go. There was like a whole room with music videos, and I saw a grandma dancing to Tina Turner. It was like the best thing ever. It really is. Those are such special things.
Oh my goodness. I've not heard about either any of that. I never thought of Nashville, like you said, for waterfalls. What?
I know, I know. It's the same way when people always say to me, from being a fashion editor for so long, they're like, Portland, don't you guys just wear Birkenstocks and flannel? And I'm like, no, we don't. We do that sometimes, but we have an amazing independent designer scene. We have so much fashion there. But, people get their ideas about a city and then that's all they know. And we try to
Right.
change their minds.
Well, I can say I'm guilty of that. Yeah. So those are fun things to know about for Nashville. So you're in LA. You're joining us from LA, and you said it's your next book of dates. And so how long have you been there?
So we are absolute traders to the Pacific Northwest, and we are spending the winter down here to avoid the gray.
It
We
has
also
been.
have three little god babies down here under the age of 5. And we are very, as
Aw.
I said, we don't have children of our own. We are very active auntie and uncle with our best friends' kids. So we are definitely pitching in there. And yeah, we are slowly working on the LA Book of Dates. We also have many other projects. I'm currently executive producing a documentary about the longest drag show of all time, and I'm working
Oh.
on a different type of book. I'm attempting my first mystery, which is really fun and
Nancy Drew.
complicated to write. And Ashod's obviously working on running his perfume company. So we are working on all of these things and slowly going on dates. We have all winter to do it. I would say this is the first time we're not doing 10 dates in a day. We're doing, 3 dates on a weekend, which feels more than average, but like very reasonable for us. So
Yeah.
it will probably take a little bit longer than other of our date books to get out. But, between 2021 and 2025, we had 3 books come out, and we did a second version of Portland last year as well, because it had been out since 2021. So to do 3 books and a revision in 4 years, plus all of our other stuff, we were tired. We need to
Yeah.
slow down a little bit.
Yeah. It's a lot. Do you have any cities picked out yet beyond Los Angeles, or nothing in mind just yet?
I'm not sure, but I'll tell you, I'm just such a West Coast girl that for me, and Nashville was definitely the one off, just again, because we felt like city size wise and spirit wise, it made sense. And I'm glad we did it. And I loved doing it. And I'm really proud of that book. But yeah, I'm a real West Coast girl. So I feel like the chances are we might run up the coast a little bit, do an LA book. I would love to do a San Francisco and Bay Area book because all the wine country, and there's
Ooh.
Big Sur, which just reopened the highway this week. Like that, there's just so many stunning things. So I think we could do a couple of California books, and then we'll go from there.
Wow.
Maybe then we'll be done dating. I doubt it. No.
Well, I'll be surprised. It doesn't sound like that could happen, or not for a while anyway.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
you're on the road a lot, but is Portland still home?
Yes. Oh, yes. Portland is still home. We just have started. Last year was our first one where we did winter down in LA to be around the kiddos and escape some of the gray rain, and we can work from anywhere. So we packed up the kiddies and came to LA for we come down here for like 2.5 months. So it's not, but yes, otherwise still Portland is home forever.
So we've discussed a lot of different things. It's been really fun to get to know you. Is there anything that we haven't asked you about that you'd like to share with us, Eden?
I can't think of anything. So
Ooh,
thorough. Yes.
ooh.
No, I'm so glad we touched on all of the stuff. I would say the one thing that I really love that is a Seattle date that is the Resilient Hearts Animal Sanctuary, which is kind of near Gasworks Park. They have a thing that I thought was so wonderful. I don't know of any other shelters that do this, where you can, if you're over 18, you can be a volunteer and basically take some of the dogs for a walk for just the day.
Yeah.
So if you, for some reason, if you live in an apartment where you're not allowed to have pets, if you're semi-allergic and you couldn't live with them all the time, whatever it is, you travel too much, but you miss animals. I think that is such a wonderful idea for a date to go there, to be able to take some dogs that desperately want some fun and to like, get a coffee or something and go down to Gasworks and run them around and let them have fun. I remember writing that date and being like, what a special, wonderful idea. And I think places should do that more. And maybe they do, but I hadn't heard of it.
Ooh, it's a win. It's a win for the person and a win for the dog.
Exactly. It's a win for everyone. Everyone will feel
Yeah.
good. And that's an ideal date when everyone walks away with just being like mood boosted, feels good. You made the world a little bit better today and you got to have a nice time doing it.
Yeah, right. Some one-on-one attention for both animal and human.
Exactly.
A great outcome. So I just wanted to share with you as we're getting close to wrapping up. It was such a pleasure and a fun experience for me to record your book. I just
Aw.
enjoyed the very exciting descriptions of places that I already knew, but still was seeing them in kind of a different way through your peppy writing style. Like I knew Molly Moon, of course. I'd been to Cary Park. I've been to Scarecrow Video. Those are just a few examples. But it was really fun to see them in a different way. And then also just to learn, like I was mentioning, you have all those great historical pieces of information and the trivia. And so along the way, even though if it was something I knew about, there were new things that, oh, I didn't know about. So that was really, really fun. I enjoyed that so much.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. Did I make you laugh?
Yes, yes.
Good.
In lots of ways, your play on words were very, very fun. Those are such a kick. And I wish I could find, oh, yeah, okay. So let me see if I can find something really quick where you'd write something about in a different way. Oh, yeah, Temple of the Dog Elk. And then you cross out dog. So you were always doing this play on words. A play on words throughout the whole book that it was like unexpected. I wasn't expecting.
We're very silly when it comes to the title of the date. I have to say, of all the books we've ever done, one of my favorite titles ever is that medieval village outside Seattle that we named that date Joust the Two of Us. And I laughed so hard. When we do those titles, I fully admit this is not responsible, but Ashod and I typically drink a little bit too much tequila, and then we do all of the date titles at once. We like go out for margaritas, get very silly, and then we write them all. And when I said Joust the Two of Us, I didn't stop laughing for like 10 straight minutes. Like I just could not. It just tickled me so much. And I remember my editor getting it and her writing back just those, she just wrote Joust the Two of Us. And I was like, she gets it. She gets it. It's so fun and so silly.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness sakes. And so even though a lot of the Seattle things I was familiar with, you gave me some ideas for things that I want to see, and especially for me, Tacoma. Tacoma, you introduced me to things about Tacoma I didn't even know about.
Yeah, it's cute. And the park there is stunning. Such a fun, huge place. It really, yeah, it's great.
I never had heard of like the Dahlia Trial Garden. What?
Mm-hmm.
And the Tacoma Vintage Walks. Wow. And Tacoma's not too far away.
No, exactly. And you can tell that I have, as I always say, I have gardening propaganda in the books because I'm a gardener and I love gardens. And I think that they're a very nice, peaceful thing always for people. So I always say I'm very blatant with my garden propaganda in these books, trying to put people into the gardening mindset.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I just want to add, I think this is a great book for anyone. Anyone can use this book as a way to discover sites in Seattle. I think this is a great book for families. Most of what you describe is very family friendly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's true. A lot of it is. We try to have that in there. And then of course we have things where the kids should stay home.
A
But
few-
like the burlesque, like the burlesque.
A few
But
things.
it's a good mix of both.
Right, yeah. And then finally, I want to add, because this might be especially true for our listeners, even if in listening to this book, your thought is that, well, I won't be visiting these places for lots of different reasons. I just won't be going there. But the read, the listen is definitely worth it because of all the fun that you put into your descriptions, to the historical information, to the trivia. So I think this is a book for anyone to enjoy listening to. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing with our listeners in our podcast. It's been a great morning for me. Good luck to you with the rest of your day.
Well, thank you so much, Holly. I really appreciate it. I'm so happy this exists. I hope it brings a little bit of joy to people, and I can't wait to hear you be me.
Well, I enjoyed trying to do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
The Seattle Book of Dates is currently in process for WTBBL's catalog as an audiobook with the class ID DBC 30240. We'll let you know in a later episode when it's available for download. Log Life, one of Amy Hevern's books we discussed in the last episode, is now available as an audiobook with the class ID DBC 31781. If you have any questions or comments about the library, or to see if you qualify for our services, visit WTBBL.org or leave us a voicemail at 206-615-0400 or call toll-free at 800-542-0866. This episode of Literary Notes is a production of the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library based in Seattle, Washington. I'm your producer, Nathan Ureta. Thanks for listening.